I'm Brett Baer in Washington, and this is a Fox News alert. Late this afternoon, senators approved legislation to end the National Security Agency's collections of your phone records while preserving some of its other surveillance authorities. Senate Republican leaders opposed the House-passed USA Freedom Act, replacing the Patriot Act, but they were forced to accept it unchanged after last-ditch attempts to amend it were rejected. A short time ago, President Obama tweeted he will sign the bill as soon as he gets it. Speaking of surveillance, we're learning tonight the FBI is using low-flying airplanes to keep an eye on you. And a lot of people are upset about it. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is here tonight. Good evening, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Brett. The investigation by the Associated Press found the FBI is flying surveillance flights, in many cases without a court's approval, using technology to gather video or cell phone data. And tonight, the FBI emphasized to Fox News that the program is not secret and the data collection is targeted. Over a 30-day period, the AP investigation found more than 100 flights over at least 11 cities, including Seattle, Houston, Phoenix, Chicago, Boston, Minneapolis, and over Southern California. The AP says it was asked by the FBI not to identify front companies used by the Bureau. This plane with unusual antennas and a camera was photographed last week in Northern Virginia, and congressional records show the FBI fleet has 115 planes, including 90 Cessnas. Today, a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee questioned whether the program respects legal boundaries.
Is it consistent? Is it authorized? Does it have oversight? And we will be asking all these questions sooner rather than later.
The aircraft are not equipped, designed, or used for bulk collection activities or mass surveillance, an FBI spokesman told Fox, adding the FBI uses all tools and equipment and conducts all investigations in accordance with the Attorney General guidelines. But critics, including the ACLU, question whether the data is retained or destroyed.
The FBI might be looking for a particular person, but a lot of these technologies will still sweep up information about thousands or tens of thousands of people. And just as a reminder that what we've seen in the last 15, 20 years is this huge surveillance apparatus that our American government has created is increasingly being swung around and turned inward on the American people.
The DEA and the U.S. Marshal Service also use planes for similar collection programs, Brett.
And Catherine, there are new developments tonight on the anthrax case we brought you yesterday, that the Pentagon was sending out these live anthrax spores to different labs.
Well, that's right. Defense officials are now confirming that samples of live anthrax were sent to 3 labs in Canada. That means labs in 12 states, Washington, D.C., and 3 countries are now affected. No one has become ill, but investigators have not ruled out the likely possibility that more live anthrax was shipped by accident, Brett.
Hard to believe, but is there a pattern here?
Well, a defense official confirms to Fox News tonight that there was an incident in 2006. A vial of anthrax was sent to the Pentagon to test its bioweapons detection system for incoming mail, and instead of being inert, the sample most likely contained live anthrax. And the vial came from the same Utah lab responsible for this recent scare, Brett.
Well, I was posted there in 2006, so hopefully it all works out. Thanks, Catherine. Now to Iran and just how much nuclear fuel Iran has been stockpiling while negotiating a nuclear drawdown with the West. New developments as we learn from former White House aides that President Obama's feelings were apparently hurt by the charge that he's no friend of Israel, an idea that has been fueled by his desperate nuclear outreach to the Islamic Republic. Correspondent Kevin Cork's at the White House tonight.
We know what you did for us. We are forever grateful.
On a day when the president honored posthumously 2 World War I heroes with medals of honor, including a Jewish American, a key aide to the commander-in-chief said the president was deeply frustrated by the perception that he wasn't a strong supporter of Israel. David Axelrod told Israeli TV Channel 2 the president said to him, quote, "You know, I think I'm the closest thing to a Jew that has ever sat in this office. For people to say that I'm anti-Israel or even worse, anti-Semitic, it hurts." The comments reflect the wide gulf between the Obama and Netanyahu administrations and come as the president conducted a wide-ranging interview with an Israeli TV network, during which he addressed concerns that Iran won't live up to a nuclear arms deal.
Now, it may be that Iran is not able to make the necessary concessions for us to know we can verify it. Then there's going to be no deal.
Pessimism that an arms deal will be reached by the June 30th deadline is growing. Inspectors reported that Tehran's stockpile of nuclear fuel increased by 20% over the last 18 months. The State Department shrugged off the report.
The notion that this is some obstacle is just patently absurd. They are permitted, again, to do what they're doing here.
But it's Tehran's threat to refuse inspection of its military sites that's raised the specter of a regional nuclear arms race. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius telling the Wall Street Journal, quote, several countries in the region would say, okay, a paper has been signed, but we think it's not strong enough, and therefore we ourselves have to become nuclear. Meanwhile, in Paris, an anti-ISIS coalition met to discuss the fight against the terror group. Iraqi Prime Minister al-Abadi told allies that he needed, quote, all the support of the world to counter the ISIS advance, but was not getting much. Speaking to the summit by phone, Secretary of State John Kerry said despite territorial gains, ISIS is not a state, saying, quote, Daesh is no more a state than I am a helicopter. Defense Secretary Ash Carter said there's only so much the U.S. can do.
We could defeat ISIL, but we can't keep them defeated. Only the people who live in the region, in this case in Iraq, can do that.
Secretary Kerry was supposed to attend that anti-ISIS summit, but he couldn't because he broke his leg in that cycling accident a couple days ago. And we were told today that he actually had surgery on that leg, and as long as he is recovering, he'll continue to work on the P5+1 talks. Brett?
Kevin Gork, live on the North Lawn. Kevin, thank you. There appear to only be a few survivors from a cruise ship disaster on China's Yangtze River. The country's official news agency says the vessel capsized in a storm Monday night with 458 people aboard, most of them elderly tourists. So far, only about 15 have been rescued. Two of those, the ship's captain and chief engineer, have been taken into custody. New documents obtained by Fox News show officials at the National Archives passed up numerous opportunities to secure Hillary Clinton's emails, both while she was Secretary of State and when she was a private citizen, and unilaterally purged her private server of 30,000 pages of emails. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen reports.
During Hillary Clinton's final days as Secretary of State, documents obtained by Fox News show the chief records custodian at the National Archives and Records Administration emailed his colleagues to sound the alarm that Clinton might run off with her official records. There are or may be plans afoot for Clinton taking her records from state to Little Rock. NARA official Paul Wester wrote in December 2012, "We need to discuss what we know and how we should delicately go about learning more about Clinton's departure from state." The Wester email is one of 73 documents that NARA and the State Department turned over this month in response to a Freedom of Information Act request by Cause of Action, a nonpartisan government accountability watchdog.
How do we have a system of noncompliance, a system of essentially even National Archives employees who are supposed to be objective, delicately dealing with the potential of illegal activity?
NARA is, by federal statute, entrusted with supervisory authority over the executive branch agencies and their employees, tasked with ensuring their records are properly preserved and stored. But the documents show NARA officers exercising precious little oversight over Hillary Clinton. In late 2009, NARA archivist David Langbart wrote to his colleague Michael Kurtz about the issue they were observing with the preservation of, quote, high-level memos generated within S/ES. That's the Office of the Secretary of State within the department's executive secretariat. It now appears that they will be establishing their own record-keeping system, Langbart noted. And after the New York Times broke the Clinton private email story 3 months ago, NARA's general counsel, Gary Stern, privately emailed the national archivist himself, David Ferrero, to say NARA does look into allegations of this type. This case, if true, would present a concern. Among those surprised by the Clinton server bombshell was James Springs, NARA's acting inspector general, who swiftly emailed Paul Wester to ask, were we aware the government email system was not being used by Ms. Clinton? Wester forwarded the email to 7 other NARA colleagues, saying only, I will talk to James.
I remain mystified by the fact that the use of a private email account apparently went either unnoticed or unremarked upon during a 4-year tenure in office of the former secretary. Simply put, where was everyone?
Two recent polls show the controversy swirling around Mrs. Clinton taking a toll. A CNN survey finds her favorability rating reaching a 14-year low, while a Washington Post ABC News poll finds 55% of Americans disapproving of the way that Clinton has handled questions about her emails. Brett?
James, thanks. Not the end of this. Up next, why the IRS can't seem to protect your personal information. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 25 in Boston, where a man fatally shot by law enforcement officers was under surveillance by the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. Police say Osama Rahim pulled a knife on officers and refused to put it down. The commissioner of the Boston Police would not say why the suspect was being watched. KVRR in Fargo, North Dakota, where a man has been convicted of driving while drunk. He was driving a Zamboni. Stephen James Anderson was arrested during a girls' high school hockey game after fans complained he was driving the machine erratically and crashing into the boards. His lawyer unsuccessfully contended drunken driving laws do not apply to Zambonis. This is a live look at Belmont Park in New York. Fox 5's covering out there the arrival of American Pharoah. Ahead of Saturday's Belmont Stakes, he will attempt to be horse racing's first Triple Crown winner since 1978. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.